So as our last presentation today, we will go through the remaining small group observations. Just as a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure that you are turning in that final week 9 quiz by the 19th, that you're turning in the observation essay if you use the get out of jail free card or need to turn it in late. And then remember that the extra credit is available for you to complete by the 19th. So if you have any remaining makeup assignments to do for classes that you've missed, if you've missed more than 3, just make sure to turn that in to me by the 19th, since that's my hard cutoff for submitting grades. And then as a final reminder, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to submit course evaluations by the end of the day today to Canvas. You should have received an email on the 27th or 28th that links you to that. So for today's class, we have Olivia who will be starting us out, and actually due to extenuating circumstances, Olivia is not able to join us face to face, but Olivia has recorded a video to share. So we'll hear from Olivia's video. We'll hear from Kenna and Noah. I believe Brooke, Andrew, and Caitlin are not here today, so we'll hear from this video and then these 2 face-to-face presentations and move on from there. As a final reminder on presentations, for folks that are presenting today, I'll just do, you've used 4 minutes, you have 2 minutes remaining with my 2 fingers. 1 finger when 5 minutes are used and you have 1 minute remaining, then I'll use a fist to indicate that you're at time. If you're not presenting today, just follow along and listen. And remember that if you're not presenting, I'm asking you to take some notes on 2 of the presentations. Report on the group that you observed, what stood out to you, and how some of those observations would overall connect to the course. So just know that that is what to expect going into today's class for our final attendance. So I'll start with Olivia's video. So again, Olivia submitted a video talking about small group participation. So I'm going to pull that up, give you the chance to go through that. And if you are presenting today, then, or you are taking attendance for today, that is one of the options that you can use. So I will.
Hi, this is my small group communication observation. I went and I sat in on a Zoom meeting for the Distinguished Young Women of Blackfoot's committee meeting. It was our first meeting of the year, and it was like an introductory meeting where they decided the theme. I chose this group because I knew like the head organizational leader. Her name is Kim Haney, and I went and I knew her and I knew the program's success. And so I went and sat on a meeting to see how successful they were. So what they did was they discussed the theme of the whole program, and how the theme could be included in all the different parts of the program. Oh, which this is pretty much like a beauty pageant that does, but you win scholarships for it. So the 5 different categories include the opening number, fitness, interview, self-expression, and talent. And so they just talked about that and how they could incorporate the theme. So the first phase of the meeting was the brainstorming phase where they shared different ideas and they all came with ideas about the theme, and then they brainstormed and figured out which one they liked best. Once they came to a decision on 3 of them, they decided the application phase where each team leader, they had a team leader for each portion of the program, like opening number, talent, fitness, each had a team leader in that. And they all discussed kind of within their little groups what they thought would be best and how the themes could apply to their groups. Then they all went around and talked about how the themes could apply and what problems they saw and whatnot, kind of debated the issue. Then when they were ultimately ready to make a decision, they used a version of Robert's rules to kind of host or to kind of conduct if they all wanted to do or if they didn't want to do it. And that was their way that they voted. They all said aye and raised their hand, and everyone that agreed it had to be a majority. And if the majority won, then they did that for their program. Also, they kept an agenda throughout the whole thing and wrote down the ideas just to keep a tally of everything. So then we had leadership. So I felt like all the different leaders throughout the group, from Kim being the head leader to everyone else that was in charge of the talent and everything, all the small portions of the program, I felt like they had leadership traits that included energy, adaptability, communicated well, and they were very responsible. They used the delegated leadership type, which is where Kim was the head leader of the whole program and then delegated the small leadership roles to each one of the committee members. And then I felt like when they were faced with challenges or anything like that, they dealt with them by a leader as a promoter of constructive deviation, where they had different ideas of way to handle things and they all took that into account, and leader as a structuralist, which encouraged group participation and in the meeting to work through those issues when they did arise, or to all talk through them together. I felt like the whole entire meeting was very goal-oriented. They had been a super successful program the past years, and it really motivated them to keep this same goal in mind, because it wasn't just being a successful program, but it was the impact that they were making on the girls. All the girls super enjoyed the program and what the leaders had done for them. And so that was making the meeting exciting and fun to have that same goal in mind. They also used what the book referred to as systematic thinking, where they had the big picture in mind. I said it's a marathon, not a sprint on the slideshow, and that's true. They kept the big picture of the whole entire theme and the whole entire program and how they could include the theme throughout multiple activities with the girls, even before the program started. And so it was the total decision, but not just the individual decisions leading up to it. In conclusion, I felt like the meeting was super successful. For one, they all had the same goal and were motivated to achieve that goal in mind. They worked well with each other and worked ideas off each other super well as two. And overall, I thought that they just had super good leadership skills. I felt like they all knew what they were doing. They all specialized in their certain areas that they were in charge of. And so I felt like they all gave really good perspectives of why the thing would work and why the thing wouldn't work. Overall, what I learned was that I actually got to see in real life how these concepts we've been talking about really work in a real life meeting setting where something is super important, and how that meeting was super successful and how their program is successful, and just seeing that cohesion and how they can really apply what we've learned to make a successful program and to make something successful, and being able to see that meeting really put it in perspective. And I learned a lot from this meeting. That was the end of my slideshow. So thanks everyone for watching. Sorry I couldn't be there, but hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome. So I think Olivia did a great job here of talking about some of the ways that group motivation plays a really big role in overall group participation, engagement, and so on. I really enjoyed the way that in talking about the distinguished young women of Blackfoot, that there was this discussion about participation, involvement, and ways to keep people engaged. As I've sort of seen with other presentations, I really like the way in which this one really focused on applying and using these kinds of skills. So really cool to see Olivia's work, and that we had the chance to hear a little bit from Olivia as well. So also go ahead and pull up on Canvas. I think there were a couple slides, so slideshow submissions through Canvas. All right. We have Kenna up next. So you're welcome to click this arrow or use these
Okay.
in between slides. Just one moment to get things out of the way. And whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I did my presentation or my observation on the Eastern Oregon University volleyball team. I chose this just because I used to play volleyball, so it's something I was comfortable observing and reporting on. Also, I know the coach and a lot of the players, so it's easy to get in contact with them. So a little bit about the organization. It was on Thursday, February 24th from 3 to about 5 p.m. and is face-to-face. I'd say it's more of an informal meeting just because it was a practice for a recruit. They were just seeing how the new recruit would fit into the team. But it was also more formal at the end because they did sit down and talk in a circle, and they had the recruit asking questions, the athletes that are currently on the team asking the recruit questions just to get to know each other. There's 14 athletes and 2 coaches that were there. And then I thought it was important to include the time orientation. It was both monochromatic and polychromatic at times, just because some of the drills had a specific time limit, where it's like you have to do it for, a lot of them were like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whereas others were more like amount of reps until the drill was done, kind of an idea. So there's a few different types of leadership. Deck leadership, just because the team captains and the coach were both involved. I mean, the coach wasn't playing, obviously, but she was right there with them in every drill, telling them what to do, telling them how to improve. Functional leadership, because they could change between the specific tasks, drills, and positions, you know, when they're going to, whether it's a setting position or a hitting position, things like that. And then also the Belvin's inventory, I feel like also played into leadership because of, this is kind of, I was observing, I don't know if this is exactly how they place themselves into it, but there's, I think, about 3 co-coordinators just delegating what to do in each drill. 6 team workers that were very cooperative, just like we're here to get the drill done, get the practice done. A couple implementers that would, you know, put things into action. They retrieve the balls after water breaks. They get everyone back in business, get everyone back practicing. And 3 shapers that were just problem solvers. If someone wasn't doing great in a position, you know, they're like, well, let's get you into this position, get you moving somewhere else. And some things that I learned. I think the goals are very important. It encourages the motivation and collaboration within the team. When all the members have a goal that they're working towards, it helps push everyone in the right direction, keeps everyone, especially because they're in the off season right now. So if they have a goal, a long-term goal of going to nationals, their short-term goals of making it to every practice, making it to every workout are really important. And it just helps the captains and leaders to step into their positions on the team. And then also from this meeting, what a good leader looks like, because not only the team captains, but also the coach. Kaki is a great leader. I know that she has weekly meetings with the athletes in and out of off season, just checking in on grades, checking in on how they're doing. Like during season, it'll be like about the previous game and about the game to come. And then also she puts a positive pressure on the athletes to perform. And I think that's really important in a leader. And yeah.
So Kenna, I thought you did a really good job here of identifying some of the different leadership styles, including deck leadership. It's interesting that deck leadership is as common as it is among the presentations that you all have shared, right? It shows that a lot of the organizations, groups on or near campus are very actively involved. You have coaches that are really participating, keeping people involved. And I also like the way that you were talking about the importance of goals, right? Setting goals and motivation as a way to really understand group behavior and organization, creating those clear guidelines that allow people in a group to work together effectively. So I thought that you brought those ideas in a really compelling way and were able to show us a lot of the specific dynamics of the group in a way that made a whole lot of sense. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that and to teach us a little bit more about this group. All right, so Noah will be our final presentation of the day. So we've got your slideshow right here, last but certainly not least. Screen share here. So you're welcome to either use the click or the arrows to move between slides. All right, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. My observation was on a group called Star Wars Clone Wars Roleplay Group, which is a server that's made up of about 1,000 people. But with this community meeting, there's about 10 people that joined. So it was a really big contrast compared to what I was expecting. And when I did go into this meeting, I was expecting to have like a really strict order or so, or an agenda, Robert's rules following this protocol because the server is huge. So this took place on March 4th, and it was last Friday. So there was no cameras on, but the mics were on, and how you would present your feedback is you would raise your hand, like Zoom, I guess, and you would be brought up to the panel and then discuss what you thought about the community, about the game, with updates and your thoughts. So why I chose this was because I wanted to see if they would introduce any updates about the game, about the Discord, and then it was really one of the only meetings I can attend because the rest that I was trying to get into were like either past the deadline or they were in cahoots with some performances I had to do. Then also I was invited mainly because I was also posting my own server within this Discord. So I thought, okay, I might as well join them to at least show that I care, I guess. Okay, so the meeting progression. So before the meeting, the community leader and the moderator, they were just chatting. It was more like a group discussion about what they were doing with their lives. This was before the meeting started. And then once the meeting began, they would explain the rules of how you would introduce yourself and talk about what we're going to be doing today. There was not like a set agenda that the community leader set. He did seem to have like an idea of what he wanted, but it wasn't ever announced. And I was actually about to say, like, and there's usually a channel where you can say that has a no mic where you'll type stuff in. And I was about to say, do you have an agenda for this meeting? But I didn't want to derail or take any credibility away from what they wanted to discuss. So they brought up a few community members, and they talked about how good the server was, about how they felt within it. They talked about the game and the latest updates that happened in there. Then they proceed with the developers' notes, which were about the new map that they just created. It wasn't really an update. It was more like saying what they did and that created this world and what the process was and what the other developers were doing in this stage. But there were a lot of problems in this meeting I found. One was more staff entered in this community meeting, which if you're a staff, you basically have like power to like go up to the panel without being brought up. So there will be a lot of side chats between the staff members while like the community people, or I guess the people would be brought up to speak. So you would just be drowned out with these side conversations when you're listening to the actual person. Then there was a little bit of like conflict with the moderator and the community leader, where the moderator would like interrupt the speakers. So the community leader would bring them down to like where the people were. But since the moderator has like the power, he basically brought himself up, and it was just a back and forth battle, but it was there brought under control. I was considered leader to be like more of a conductor. He did have like a plan and he went through like what he wanted, brought up the individuals to discuss how the game went and how the community was. And then he wanted to bring up the developers' notes and to discuss what they have been doing. And what he also did was like fill the void with like guitar music in the background, so which was pretty nice, I would say. Even though for my thoughts, this meeting was really chaotic in my opinion. There's no Robert's rules. There was like there was the agenda, but it wasn't announced. I was just able to pick it up with what he was saying. And this all really solved the problem with these side conversations and stuff. He decided like, oh, let's join this game and then we'll discuss everything through there. And yeah, it was not the best experience that I was expecting. It was not what I was hoping between the meeting. Any questions? Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks so much, Noah. I think that you did a great job here of getting at sort of the unique dynamics of a meeting that happens virtually, right? It happens through Discord and sort of the challenges that involve moderating, such a larger group, and also the potential for distraction, side conversations, and so on. I really liked your insights toward the end here about the ways in which this group had its problems with communicating and working together effectively, right? Like, it's cool to see folks using and applying things about when small group communication doesn't go so well as a way to better understand and to apply some of these skills. So really enjoyed your observations here. I think you did a great job of wrapping us up on these presentations. So why don't we give another round of applause for folks that had the opportunity to present today. So that does it for our presentations in the class. At the end of every class, I just like to give a few points about things that I hope that you'll take away from out of the class. Just kind of knowing that, you go through a lot of courses in college, and I hope that there's a couple things that you can continue to take along with you. I think the first thing that I really hope that you've built some skills in is understanding some of the ways that we communicate in groups and how to get better at that, right? For instance, as student is going to be taking more classes, that there'll be more times where you're having to work together in groups for presentations, assignments, and all sorts of different things. We have to do it professionally too when we're involved in groups and teams. Many of you are already involved in some of those organizations, right? And that can be a rough feeling. We don't enjoy being in groups a lot of the time, or we feel frustration when we're doing a school project. But I hope that this has helped to give you a framework for ways that experience can be more pleasant and go a lot better, right? Because it's a skill we have to develop and use in a professional setting all the time. And I hope another thing that you've kind of reflected on and learned are some of the things that you bring into a group. Through your reflection, looking at Belden's self-perception inventory, I think that you all have had some great insights about where you might fit into a group's participation and involvement. And so I hope that kind of reflection has helped you to think about what you have to offer that's unique within a larger group. And then lastly, we've talked a lot about how we can make small group communication go well or not in your own observations and so on. Having things like a good leadership style that makes sense. The ability to embrace diverse perspectives on things like culture, gender, race, and so on is incredibly important to make sure that everybody feels included. To create open communication, right? Groupthink happens. And just because people are not disagreeing does not mean that they're always in agreement. And so creating that opportunity for people to openly express their views is important. And also thinking about context and situation. What is the leadership style, organization, and so on? It makes sense for the group in that. So those are some things that I hope that have stuck around. Best of luck with wrapping up your classes, doing everything else that you need to do as this quarter comes to a close. I know it's a challenging time with exams, essays, and all of that coming up. So I hope that that experience goes well for you. I hope that you have an awesome spring break and enjoy your travels as you gear up for spring. I'm spending my 30th over spring break at Hood River, so I'm excited for that. So best of luck, enjoy your travels, and feel free to contact me if there's anything I can do as you're wrapping up the quarter. So awesome work, and go ahead and either email or pass forward your attendance for today.